Hello and welcome to the Reading Corner with Mr. Wills, where today it is day 2 of the Loud Shirt Day. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments section. Also, don't forget that one aspect of the background changes every video. Can you see what's changed today? We're going to read chapter 11 today. We're hopefully going to read the whole thing, but I think you'll agree, chapter 10 was maybe the best chapter of the book so far. Let's begin. After hearing Ahmet's story and seeing his pictures, I was bursting with lots of new questions. So were Tom and Josie and Michael. But we knew we couldn't ask Ahmet anything. We should just write them down, suggested Josie. Then maybe after the holidays, Ahmet will be put in... Then maybe after the holidays, Ahmet will have put some more pieces back together and Mrs. Khan will think it's okay for us to ask him. We all agreed. So when I got home that night, I took out my old list of questions and after crossing out the ones that I already had the answers to, wrote new questions in my very best handwriting, just to make sure we wouldn't forget any of them. This is what it looked like. After I'd finished writing them out, I put the list in the front pocket of my rucksack. I would have to wait until the holiday was over to find out if Ahmet was ready to answer any of them. I know everyone in school likes the holidays, but I don't. Not really. Mum still has to work and she can't afford to send me to a holiday camp or for extra activities. So I have to spend most of the time with Mrs. Abbey. Usually Michael and Josie's parents come and take me to their house for a day, but Michael's parents were taking him to a holiday in France. And Josie was going camping, and Tom and his brothers were visiting a family near the seaside, so there was no one for me to play with this holiday. The week felt extra long and extra boring, because London had what Mum calls a grey day week. That's when all the days are so cold and so grey and so wet and blustery that you don't want to get out of your pyjamas or your bed, and the whole week feels like one long grey day that you can't wait to be over. But on the Sunday morning before school opened again, just as Mum was reading her newspapers and I was trying to decide what we should do for our Sunday adventure, the phone rang. Mum picked it up. And when she put it back down again, she was biting her lip and frowning. That meant she'd forgotten something important and was feeling angry at herself. Darling, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. But that was your Uncle Lenny on the phone reminding me that he's coming over for lunch today. I jumped up with excitement. With your Aunt Christina and baby Jacob. I sat back down and made a face. Can't Uncle Lenny come on his own? I asked. Mum shook her head. No, he can't. Your Aunt and Jacob haven't been here in a while, so it's nice that they want to come. And then, noticing that I was still making a face, she added, and guess what? Uncle Lenny is bringing lunch, roast chicken, your favourite. And he says he wants to play Scrabble with you. And he asked you to set up the board immediately. I jumped up and ran into the bedroom to get the Scrabble board from underneath my bed. I love Scrabble more than any other board game. Dad always used to let me win by placing his letters in silly places so that he could get the lowest points. But Mum and Uncle Lenny never play low-scoring words on purpose because Mum says that's helping me win and that is cheating. She does let me use a dictionary though, otherwise it wouldn't be fair. After all, she and Uncle Lenny are older and cleverer and know lots more words than a 9-year-old could ever know. And just like that, I didn't mind that Aunt Christina and Jacob were coming at all, because there was nothing I loved better than eating my Uncle Lenny's roast chicken, except playing Scrabble with him. Just like Josie, Uncle Lenny is in all of my memories too. When Dad died, I remember him being at the hospital with us and hugging Mum and me a lot. That was when he started calling me his brave little tiger. I don't know why, because I didn't feel even the tiniest bit brave at the time. But I didn't mind, because after the funeral, he was the only person who stayed behind and helped Mum sort everything out. None of my other uncles and aunts who visited that day came back to see Mum and me again. Mum's friends try and visit when they can, and Josie's mum is always asking us if we need any help, but they're busy with work just like Mum is. Sometimes I think most of the people that came to the funeral were all really witches and wizards who had appeared out of thin air just so that they could eat the buffet and shake their heads and then disappear. It was good they disappeared because most of them smelt like old mothballs and liked to pinch my cheeks until they hurt. That's another reason I love Uncle Lenny. He's never, ever pinched my cheeks or smelled like old mothballs. He smells like warm bread most of the time and freshly baked cookies some of the time. He's a taxi driver and he works at night. He loves his job and tells us the funniest stories about all of the different kinds of people who have jumped into the back of his car. Like the time a famous actress got in and ordered him just to drive round for a whole hour just so she could get some sleep. All the time a large Italian family spent the whole ride silently fighting over a single portion of fish and chips. Whenever my Uncle Lenny visits us, he always brings a large bag of food shopping and a chocolate bar for me. He doesn't usually come with my Aunt Christina because she doesn't like us. I don't know why, but it's okay because I don't like her either. She's very beautiful and is always perfectly dressed with perfect hair and perfect makeup on her face. But she wrinkles up her nose whenever she sees something she doesn't like, which is nearly all of the time. So she always looks as if she smelled a bag of bad eggs. She has a fake smile too. It's one of those smiles that always shows a lot of teeth, but which never travels to other parts of her face. I don't trust people who can't smile with their whole face. It means they're trying to hide something from you. Fake smiles always make me want to get as far away from the fake smiler as possible. Their son Jacob is okay. He's only 2 and likes to break things. So I tried to hide all my best toys for whenever he comes over. After I finished setting up the Scrabble board, I helped Mum tidy up the house and making my bedsheets extra straight for when the doorbell rang. All right, all right, all right. Here's my favourite 10-year-old, shouted Uncle Lenny when he opened the door. He always said that, even though I know I'm the only nearly 10-year-old he knows, which means he can't have any other favourites. I'm okay, I shrugged. Only okay? He asked, bending down and looking at me with his eyes. Might need to send you to the smile doctor. I smiled even wider. That's better. He ruffled my hair and gave me a kiss on the cheek and then heaved 2 large grocery bags into the kitchen. Afternoon, said my Aunt Christina, her lips pinched together, and she was wearing so much perfume that it made my nose tickle. Jacob's asleep, so you'll have to play with him later, she said matter-of-factly as she carried Jacob through the door and stuck out her pointy face at me. I stood on my tiptoes and gave her a kiss. She pulled away quickly. Right, what have you been up to then? Asked Uncle Lenny as he came and steered me into the kitchen table. I think he must be so used to driving his taxi that he likes to drive people too. Nothing, I shrugged. Do you want to play Scrabble with me now, Uncle Lenny? We'll have a game after lunch, my little tiger, he smiled. I'm not on till 5 today. Darling, why don't you tell Uncle Lenny about your new friend? Asked Mum as she set the table. Oh yeah, the pomegranate boy, said Uncle Lenny. Your mum told me. What's happening there then? Lots, I said. I began to tell him the whole story about the big fight, the mysterious plant pot murder, and the great baked bean bag trap and Ahmet's story. and as we ate our lunch, I told them about the bombs and the fire and the orange boat and the tents and Ahmet's cat and the railway track and the wall with the barbed wire on it. Uncle Lenny shook his head. "Poor Tyke," he said every few minutes, and Mum nodded along and looked sad sometimes. But Aunt Christina, she just looked bored. Then, just as I was about to tell them about my new list of questions, Aunt Christina said, "It doesn't surprise me that you want to be friends with the refugee kid and all. You have lots of things in common with him. I mean, with your gran being a refugee too." Uncle Lenny and Mum looked up sharply. "I can't bear to think about it. Imagine being a war refugee back in the day, before they all got loads of benefits and houses nicer than ours." Uncle Lenny looked up angrily and was about to say something when, just then, Jacob began to cry. Aunt Christina jumped up with a sniff and said, "Oh, seems like he's christened his nappy again," before rushing out of the room. "Mum, is that true?" I asked, looking at Mum so hard it felt like my eyes were about to pop out of my head. "Was Gran a refugee as well?" "All yours," muttered Uncle Lenny as he got up and walked away with one of the shopping bags. "I'll go and get dessert." Mum looked at me for a moment and said, "Yes, sweetheart. Your Grandma Jo, we went to see her with your dad when you were very little. Do you remember?" I nodded, not because I really remembered anything, but because I had looked at all the old photographs 100 times. I was 5, and it was the last time my mum and dad and me went on a holiday in a real-life plane. We went down to a town called Salzburg, which is in a country called Austria, because that's where Dad lived before he moved to England. He used to talk about the mountains and the rivers and the way the birds always seemed to follow him round. He looked so happy in all the photographs, and so did Mum. I seem to be crying a lot in my photographs, so I'm not sure if I was happy or not. I don't really remember anything about the trip except the large green wooden caravan my Grandma Jo had in her back garden. Dad used to sleep in it in the summer holidays when he was a boy. My granddad had built it before he died, which is why my dad wanted to become a carpenter. There's a photo of me and my dad sitting on the steps, and it's the only photo of me where I'm not crying. Even then, I must have liked the idea of sleeping in a bright green caravan. I couldn't really remember anything about my Grandma Jo, but we had lots and lots of photos of her and Dad, and I always look at them whenever I miss Dad too much. She had short grey hair and wore glasses that were tied in a long chain around her neck. She always wore flowery tops and white trousers. I wish I could remember her more, but sometimes, no matter how hard or how badly you might want to, your brain can't reach that far back. "Why was she a refugee?" I asked. "Did she run away from bombs like Ahmet?" Mum stayed quiet and Uncle Lenny placed 4 large chocolate eclairs on the table in front of us. I love chocolate eclairs because it's like having 3 desserts in one. But as much as I wanted to eat my eclair, I wanted to hear the answer to my question more. Uncle Lenny sat back down and cleared his throat. "Don't think you've done about World War II in school yet, have you?" Mum shook her head. "World War II?" I asked. "You mean there was another one?" Uncle Lenny nodded. "Yep, just like the one you learnt about last year. Only this time it was twice as bad." Mum put my eclair on a plate and pushed it towards me. "All you need to know, darling, is that Grandma Jo was a wonderful person, and that she helped lots of refugees, just like your friend Ahmet, run away from a war too." "Were they running away from the Syria as well?" "No, darling," putting down her own eclair. "They ran away from a different war. One that started in Germany, and they were running away from people that called themselves Nazis." "Oh," I said, wondering how many wars that I hadn't learnt about. Anyway, the important thing is that she survived, and that she got to see you." Exactly, said Mum, tapping me on my head. Now, eat up and let's have a game of Scrabble before Uncle Lenny has to leave. I nodded, knowing that my mum didn't want me to ask her any more questions. I broke up into my eclair. That afternoon, Uncle Lenny stayed and played 2 whole games of Scrabble with us. Aunt Christina watched Jacob break one of Mum's vases, rip a book, and throw my Lego bricks across the room. Mum won the first game, and Uncle Lenny won the second one, and I got the lowest points I had ever gotten in history. But I didn't mind. I don't think you can really focus on playing a game when you just found out that your grandma was a refugee who had helped lots of other refugees run away from a war, even if you're playing a game as fun as Scrabble. I hope you enjoyed that chapter, and I'll see you all tomorrow for chapter 12. Thank you.